You are listening to Balloon Killers. I'm your host, Chrissy Riley, and each episode I'll be talking to someone from the world of cowboy mounted shooting, which is one of the most exciting and fastest growing equestrian sports. Hold on to your hats because it's going to get Western. Happy holidays, everyone. We are less than a week away from Christmas now, so I hope that you've got all of your Christmas shopping done. Despite the dark nights and the cold at this time of year, it's probably one of my favorite times of the year because I love to see the colorful lights and the decorations as I'm driving around. I really love Christmas carols, and I love the memories that it brings up of my childhood Christmases with family back home in England. And of course, I miss them all a little bit extra this time of year, but thank goodness for technology, WhatsApp specifically, for keeping us all connected. I'm pleased to report that Mr. Bear did pretty well in his first main match. There were a few moments of him having no idea what was happening and utter confusion in the middle of the pattern, but generally I was very proud of him. I've been cringing a little bit when I watch the videos back because I was on his face more than I wanted to be in an effort to keep him going in the right direction because he was a bit all over the place, especially on the rundown. He kept running in towards the balloons. But at least I've got things to work on, and I'm excited to keep working on them and to watch him grow and progress. My guest this episode became the first level 6 in the state of Iowa. Adam Ross was the Iowa State High Point Cowboy in 2016, 17, 18, 2023, and 2024. He was also the North Central High Point Cowboy in 2023 and 2024. This year, he's had quite the year. He was the overall Wisconsin State Champion, the overall Tennessee State Cowboy, the Extravaganza Overall Cowboy, the Travis Quarter Horse Futurity Champion. He wore the number 6 High Point back number at Worlds, and his family was the CMSA Family of the Year. Congratulations, Rosses. We begin this interview a little differently, though, with a tribute to Charlie Little, a member of our mounted shooting community who passed away suddenly and unexpectedly a couple of weeks ago. We lost a member of our shooting community this week, and while I didn't have the privilege of knowing Charlie Little, I know that you did, and you wanted to tell us about Charlie and the Little family.
Man, it has been unbelievably emotional just for the entire mounted shooting community, to be honest. When I started, I'm gonna start off by my introduction to the Little family on how I met them. When I started mounted shooting, it was late in the season in 2013, and I was like extremely novice, knew nothing about horses, nothing about mounted shooting. I'd just barely gotten started. So by the time, you're new in your career for mounted shooting too, so you understand you first start and you don't really know what you're going to get into. By the time you get a year into it, you're just absolutely hooked. So right when I was hooked to mounted shooting was in 2014. And what do? You start looking for who's going to be the legends in this sport. And at that time, Chad Little and his brother Charlie Little were unbelievable forces of nature in our sport. They brought our sport into this century. The level of competition that they bring was unlike anything that we had at the time so far. And if you never had the privilege of watching Charlie Little run a course, he was all or nothing, a hero or a zero. Every time he went out there, their whole family is so unbelievably like gravity. They just pull you in. You can't help but watch these guys go. So in 2014, when I'm just learning what this sport is and starting to watch, I got to watch Chad came down and shot in Iowa, and his brother in 2015. The video is still on the internet right now, and it's been passed around this week for all of us who've been around for this long to watch. When Charlie went down to the world championship in 2015 and the eliminator run. He ran course number 66. And I don't know if you've seen it yet this week or not on the internet, Chrissy,
I
but that video is
haven't.
still floating around. It is the most unbelievable mounted shooting run that I've ever seen. And it's why Charlie and his horse Snappy are still amongst all of us that are at the top of this game. Everybody considers them to be just the same way we regard Sam Helms. They're just absolutely forces of nature in our sport. Debbie Little, their mother, has served on the National Advisory Board since I got into mounted shooting. She's from my region. When I didn't know what to do or when we got started with our club and it changed hands, I would call and talk to her. Their family is absolutely first class, and the entire mounted shooting community is just at a loss right now. And our hearts break for their family. It's just been a really tough week, really.
I would love to see that video and to share that video in the show notes as well for everyone to really celebrate his accomplishments and what an amazing person he was.
He was a 2008 world champion. I think I started counting up today when I was looking at this and I was thinking about, man, what I want to say about Charlie and the Little family. I think I found 6 world records that he's set so far. He still currently holds the world record on course number 26. And in my mind, this is no offense to Cody, because I know Cody actually beat his world record on course number 66 that he set in 2015. But that is still to this day the most amazing run I've ever seen in my life in mounted shooting. It was right when I was really hungry for getting started in this sport. Their family, I don't have enough good things I could say about them, Chrissy.
Well, thanks for that, Adam.
Yeah.
Well, changing speeds a little bit, I'd love to learn a little bit more about you. So we just started a new shooting year, but how was the last shooting year for you? What were some of the successes and challenges for you?
Oh my goodness. I had an unbelievable season. And by I mean my wife and I travel the entire country together, and we had an unbelievable season, and it just kind of fell upon our lap. We had the opportunity to attend every CMSA major championship from the last year. So we didn't really plan for it to be, I guess, what you would call a points chasing season, but it's kind of just what it turned into, to be honest. We attended all the majors, like I said. The dust settled at the end of the season. I was number 6 overall in the points race for CMSA. So the world banquet was pretty awesome. I got to stand up top with all the people I consider to be legends in our sport and put on a really sweet jacket. My wife,
I was going to say,
Sheila,
did you get the jacket? Because the jacket is like, I look at the
tell me
jacket as it's on my like goals board as one day I want a CMSA Worlds jacket.
Oh, I tell you what, you watch the NFR, which has also gone on this week, and watch them with their back numbers and watch them put on the jacket. And I don't know, it's such a cool program. And I've got a jacket now that says CMSA Top 10. It's actually the second time I've done it, but I got to share it this year with my wife. She finished number 4 overall on the Cowgirls. We just had an unbelievably lucky season. We just both did really, really well.
Good stuff. Well, it sounds like you've been shooting for quite some time. So tell us how you got into mounted shooting.
I have a friend of a friend, and I had never heard of this crazy sport whatsoever. I started late in the season in 2013, and I'll give a shout out to him because he still shoots now. He's got a broken ankle. He actually broke his ankle in like 20 spots. His toe just had reconstructive surgery because his horse fell down on him this year at the Eastern U.S. Championship down in Tennessee. He drove all the way down there, and his horse fell down on him. So Brian Bolton's the Cowboy's name. He's a friend of a friend. I was helping him do some more moonlight work, I guess you would say, install some cabinets. And Brian says to me, "Don't you guys have some horses?" And I said, "Well, my wife has horses, Brian. Yeah, we got some horses." Brian said, "You have got to come out to the Travis farm. You've got to come see this sport that they're trying. Bruce Travis got us all started in cowboy mounted shooting. Surely we can shoot a gun off of some of your horses." And Brian Bolton swindled me. That's all. He's supposed to be one of my friends, Chrissy, and he straight swindled me into coming out and drinking the Kool-Aid. So I attribute my success, my starting in the sport, to Brian Bolton, and then of course the Travis family. They humbly welcomed me out on their farm. I knew them from church. I knew them just from this area and didn't realize that they were quite as cowboy as they were. But they're the ones who got me started into this, really. They're the ones I can say introduced me to cowboy mounted shooting.
Yeah, I keep seeing the Travis, is it Travis Performance Horses or Travis Quarter Horses,
Yeah,
the
Travis Porter.
advert on CMSA, and I didn't really know anything about the Travis legacy, but I've heard quite a few people on the podcast talk about them, so it's really interesting to hear you talk about them as well.
Oh man, I strive to live my life just like the Travis family. They're an unbelievable family. I know that I've listened to all of your episodes on the podcast, and I already heard Carl Watson mention it as one of the shoots to
Hmm.
never list. And if you're putting shoots on your bucket list, to come out and witness the hospitality of the Travis family. They have the shoot every year at their farm. I don't want to jump ahead too much, but they're an unbelievably cool family. They raise all of their own breed of quarter horses. I'm a big fan. They anything that they have, they'll loan to you. Everything that we like about mounted shooting is in Boston, the Travis family, and it's why they're one of our CMSA families of the year. Also,
And you already mentioned this, but you said you were hooked immediately or after the first year, same as me. So what is it that you love about the sport?
and this is the same answer. So eventually, people are going to start believing us. The people. It's
Hmm.
absolutely the people
Yep.
that you get to be a part of. I've done other sports, I've done other hobbies, I've been around the country. I'm just competitive by nature. And the families, the people you meet in cowboy mounted shooting are like none other. They will welcome you, they'll loan you a horse. Every one of us knows as soon as you've been around our sport, if you have a horse that gets hurt, you're going to find one to shoot on at that event. If you have a gun that breaks, your own competitors will hand you their firearm. And that's my favorite thing about this sport is the people and the opportunities of traveling around the country and just seeing all the places and everything about mounted shooting. I'm just hooked on it. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, in terms of the people, I remember it must have been my third or fourth shoot, and I showed up and I realized that I didn't bring my guns. And I said, I believe it was Megan Fisher. So shout out to Megan Fisher. I think I said to her, "What does one do when one doesn't have guns?" And she said, "One borrows guns." And she gave me her guns to use for the competition. And I never expected that. I thought, that's it. That's my day done. I'm probably going to have to go home now. So that was my first sort of sign that mounted shooting community is really quite special. So besides being a shooter, I know that you do a lot of other things to support the sport. Tell us about the other things that you do and how you got into it all.
Oh my goodness, my wife's going to kill me here. I am one of the many talented voices of CMSA. So I'm on the CMSA announcing team. I spend way too many hours and evenings trying to put together the events for them. I'm just a big believer in mounted shooting, and you know D Chapman very well, just like I
Mhm.
do. Anything mounted shooting, I can get behind and help us promote our sport and help it to grow and be better. So I'm an auctioneer by trade. I'm an MC by trade. It just all kind of fits together and helps my personality to come through when it's time to produce events, when it's time to put somebody behind the mic. I'm always glutton for punishment and the first one to raise my hand. So I've been pretty fortunate that I hitched my wagon to the wonderful folks at CMSA for 2 years now, and I'm the voice behind the mic now for all CMSA major events.
And I've got to say that something that I've noticed about the way that you announce, and other people have mentioned this to me too, is that you are just so positive. You're so positive about everybody. Where do you get that sort of inspiration from?
I'm going to give away one of my secrets here to mounted shooting, and there's a lot of people that you watch them. Everybody acts a little bit different in the loading area, right? You understand what I
Mhm.
mean. You've seen the
Yes.
different personalities.
Yes.
There's some people that look straight down at their horse. There's some people that wear earplugs. There's some people that are joking around the whole entire time. When I walk into the gate, and I'm not very serious in the loading area, and if you've ever been around my class at a major event, the men's six class, where none of us are very serious until the moment we walk into the gate.
Mhm.
When I walk into the gate, I wish I could say I could hear the wonderful voice of Mitchell Kramer, which is normally who's announcing for me when I go, but I am just a cheerleader at heart. That's all there is to it. I self announce every single one of my runs. And when I walk out there, I have my own voice just screaming in my head about it's the bottom of the ninth inning of the World Series or it's the final drive of the Super Bowl. And that level of excitement and intensity is how I feel about mounted shooting. And I want everybody to have that same level of whether we're at a local shoot with 15 people or whether it's actually the CMSA World Finals, I want you to feel like it's a big deal because it is a big deal to me, and I want it to feel that way. If I ever feel so lucky to win a world title or win again at a CMSA major event, I want it to be a big deal. So that's how I want it to feel for everybody that I'm announcing for. Whether you're a ladies level 1 or a senior men's 3 or a Zane Chun for the men's 6s, our current reigning world champion, I feel like our successes should be cheered for. It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of time. It takes so much effort to come together with a horse and compete at the level that we do. And that's what I want to bring to everybody when I announce for them.
Well, I can tell you that it's very infectious and contagious, and I do think it has the response that you're looking for, because I certainly, when I'm watching it, I feel like I'm watching the NFR, and I feel like every single person that goes into that arena is like an NFR competitor. They're like celebrities to me, and I think you help really make it such a positive experience.
Thank you so much, Chrissy. I'm glad to hear that. It takes a lot of hours. Man, anybody who stayed up and watched the show from Vegas this last year, I don't think we finished the showcase on the
It was a late one.
Till 3 o'clock in the morning. So to stay energetic, to have people, for it to finally come across to people watching, to make us feel like a professional organization, which is how I wanted to be treated. So it's got to start somewhere. If I can help be one of the enforcers of change on it, then that's what I want to do.
Absolutely. Well, I think I know how you're going to answer this one, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. What's the one shoot that you don't miss each year?
I listen to all of your podcasts, so I know the most talked about shoot, and I agree that that's a good one. And my wife would probably say that Las Vegas would be on that list, but I'm going to break it up kind of like Matt Job did, and I'm going to talk about two of them. So for a local shoot, the one that I would not miss, and it's kind of not fair because you can't really put it on your bucket list, Christian. I know that's what you're going to try to do, but we have a shoot every year in Iowa that's a limited event, and we only let about 75 people into it at the Iowa State Fair. And we have a professional announcer come in that's not named Adam Ross, which is the other thing that makes it one of my favorite events to go to, because I don't have to work at it the whole time. But we have to wake up at midnight to sign up for this. And by 12:01, it's absolutely packed to the gills. And there's 20 people on the waiting list. And it's in the middle of July, and it's at our Iowa State Fairgrounds. And it is a statewide holiday in Iowa when the state fair starts. And we get to shoot on the first Friday of the state fair in an air-conditioned building inside the Jacobson Arena, and it packs the stand. There's 3,000 people in there watching our exhibition that we put on. It's just an unbelievable experience. I wish that we could get more people into it every single year, but it's like no other event you can go to. And that's my favorite local event we go to. As far as the national events go, my favorite CMSA major event or national shoot to go to, I'm going to say it's got to be wherever they host the CMSA Fraternity or the CMSA Derby. And that's been in conjunction with Easterns. So I'm going to say Easterns for now. But really, it's wherever. If they hosted it in Alaska, I would still go to. I'm such a big supporter of the CMSA Fraternity and the Derby program and the checks that they hand out because of it. Man, those guys are superstars. I believe in it. I train horses now, or I'm trying to become a horse trainer for the Fraternity and the Derby. So I would never, ever miss that event. Wherever they host the Fraternity and the Derby, that's the one that you should come be a part of.
It's now on the list, so thank you for that. This is another question that I ask everyone who comes on the podcast, but what's your favorite pattern and why, and what tips do you have for running it?
Oh, without a doubt, this was an easy question for me. Course number 23. I don't know if you're familiar with it yet or not, but course number 23 runs straight up the left side of the arena, and there's a gate that you run through. Right after you go through the gate, there's a very small gap, and then there's 3 balloons in a row that are 12 foot apart. So it's super, super high, fast shooting, 9-second pattern. And it's my favorite one by far. It takes so much guts at the absolute elite high level to run your horse from the starting line all the way through there without missing a step. And you're wait. I can hear everybody thinking it in my mind now. Wait. Shoot the cross shot, shoot the strong shot, and then just hammer off 5 shells as fast as humanly possible. It's such an adrenaline rush. It's an all or nothing course. The whole thing happens in 9 seconds flat, and it's absolutely my style of course and my favorite one in the book. Course number 23.
I'm going to look it up. I really like those ones as well. That sort of flow rather than spinning around barrels and the eyebrow and those
Yeah.
ones that really trip you up, you know?
It's super fast shooting. It's everything went perfect. We're an absolute train wreck. It changes up the match every time we get it drawn. And it's my absolute number one favorite course.
What about the win that you're most proud of and why?
Thought about this a lot this week. So I have two horses right now, and I'm going to give you two. And I know I'm not supposed to, but I have two horses right now, and I spent a lot of time this whole season chasing points on them. So I'm going to give one win to each one of my horses right now. My 6-year-old dun horse, everybody knows him as Rocket Donkey. I trained him myself. I spent a lot of time getting him ready. He's a great big tall gelding, and me and him walked into Cooper Steel Arena in Tennessee in the spring, and we were pretty much untouchable. They have a championship event before where they do the regional, they do the Tennessee State Shoot, and then it goes right into the CMSA Extravaganza. And me and Rocket Donkey went down this year, and it's my first win at the major level, and it's just the most fresh in my mind. It's the biggest accomplishment I have in the sport so far. So we walked away as the overall cowboy. We won the Tennessee State. That one is just the first big win that I've ever had, and to do it on a horse that I trained is a really big deal.
Yay, Rocket Donkey.
Yeah. Now I also own Rocket Donkey's full brother, and I call him the Goose Bomb. And Goose Bomb was 4 this year, and I spent just as much time demoing and starting on Goose and getting him ready for the CMSA Futurity. So it wouldn't be fair if I didn't mention Rocket Donkey's little brother Goose. Went back to Cooper Steel Arena for the CMSA Futurity and Derby, and we were actually the 2024 CMSA Futurity runner-up this year. We won a humongous check, and the Futurity board does such a great job of making it feel like a huge deal. So the dust settled. I ended up getting second overall, so we weren't a win, but to compete against the likes of Kane Kwam and Zane Chun and Brett Burkowski and come out with a horse that you got ready all on your own. And I didn't do it all on my own. My wife helped me. I have horse trainers that I've been riding with in the barn, but for Goosebump, for us to finish second in the Futurity this year, that's still a feather in my hat right now, and one that I'll never forget.
Well, congratulations. And it sounds like that arena is a lucky space for you.
I definitely plan on going back this year.
I bet. Now, you've probably mentioned a few of these people as you've been answering some of the other questions, but to what or whom do you owe your success in the sport?
Oh, man, I would be in so much trouble if I didn't first thank my wife. We go everywhere together in this sport. She's the one who got me into horses and the one who encouraged me to keep going in mountain shooting. So first, I would thank my wife, Sheila. And then secondly, I would owe probably the biggest thanks to Mr. Bruce Travis. He'd be the matriarch, in my opinion, of the Travis family. When I very first started, after Brian Bolton got me into the sport, I went out there and took just the first horse I could catch in the pasture of my wife's. I didn't know any of them. I wasn't very good at it. And obviously, it doesn't just work to jump on any old horse. So Bruce Travis mounted me for my first, I think, whole season. I rode just one of the shooting horses that they had there instead of riding one that I had. He rode around the state of Iowa with me, and we must have bought 3 or 4 horses that first year. One for me, one for my wife to try. I mean, all of my success in mounted shooting when I started and didn't know how to put a bit in a horse, I owe to Bruce Travis. And then I progressed a little further in the sport. And once I finally thought I knew what I was doing, I don't exactly remember what year it was, but I had the lovely pleasure of meeting Turner Thompson on his quest to run for Rookie of the Year. And I think it was in like 2019, Chrissy. And Turner was a men's 4, and I was a men's 4 at the time. And Turner's mom and my wife are really good friends. So we hauled Turner all across the country, and he taught, and I hope he doesn't listen to your podcast, to be honest, because I don't want him to get a bigger head than he already has right now. Because Turner Thompson's only 17 years old, and he's the most amazing horseman I've ever met in my entire life. From the time he could walk, his mom had him in lessons, and he's a reigning world champion in the reining world. He's a reserve world champion in mounted shooting. Every time I have a question still today as a men's 6 on what I'm going to do on this course, or what do you think about the last time we did this, me and Turner talk on the phone before most of my runs. We always compete together in the same class. So I wouldn't feel fair if I was handing out thanks without including Turner Thompson on the list.
I believe I actually saw him compete in Pueblo at maybe, I think it was like the Colorado State shoot or something a couple of years ago. And my jaw dropped when I watched his run because it was incredible. I think he also competed in the cavalry, which was pretty cool too.
Yes, he does. He's cavalry world champion. He's a reserve world champion, and he's just about to turn 18 years old. He's just an absolute amazing cowboy to be a part of this sport.
And I've also heard amazing things about Sheila too. I now have to meet Sheila and you, of course, but I'm really looking forward to meeting Sheila. Dee Chapman speaks so highly of her.
Oh, thank you so much.
Everyone knows you as Adam Ross, mounted shooter, CMSA announcer, but what's a little known fact about you that people might not know?
I guess partway through this interview, I started talking about it, but I get so many people asking me, how on earth did you get to where you are? And the first story I tell all of them is I never rode a horse before in my life. Not once until 2013 when I had a friend tell me to get started in mounted shooting. I didn't grow up with horses. I knew nothing about riding horses or saddling horses or how to put a bit in a horse's mouth until I started cowboy mounted shooting.
And that's not an uncommon story in this sport. I think that's one of the really cool things about this sport because I meet so many people who say that they didn't actually ride until they saw cowboy mounted shooting. They thought it looked like the coolest thing. They loved guns and they loved shooting guns. And they were like, yeah, let's just try shooting on horseback.
That's exactly my story. I spent 9 years in the Army and loved anything with firearms and shooting. And my wife had horses her entire life. It's just the sport was made for our family, is what it was.
Well, thank you for your service. I thought you were actually going to tell us a little bit about your interpretive dance in your little known fact because
Oh,
I've
I
heard
was
that you
worried.
I have heard that at the end of each day you require an interpretive dance. Can you tell us about that?
So, part of the Ross traditions, and if you haven't been in an event with us, you'll find out the first time that you've been here. We have a revolving vacancy sign on our trailer, and that's one of my favorite things about this sport. Like I said earlier, is the people. So we welcome anybody and everybody over at our trailer. So over the years, I just have a thirst for knowledge in this sport. So I spend as much time around all the people that are great in this sport. So Dee Chapman, who was on your very first episode, traveled across the country with my wife and I. And we didn't really know Dee that well, to be completely honest, but we were talking with her at a shoot and we were going to drive all the way over to Virginia. And she said, well, I wanted to go. Are you guys interested in us piling in the trailer together? Yeah, for sure. And that's all it took. And she's such an amazing, her and her husband, Paul, are such an amazing family that she drove to Iowa, which was about halfway to Virginia. She got in, we loaded in the trailer, we left. We were about 2 or 3 hours into the trip. And we got through, the first lull in conversation about how's your regular life and how's this and how's that. And it was kind of silent for a minute. She said, well, I guess I probably should have asked. You guys don't have any like weird habits or anything now that we're going to live together for a week and I don't really know you that well. You don't have any like super weird habits that you do? No, not anything at all. We do just the same thing if all the rest of it. And my wife is such a good sport and I'm a bit of a jokester and I have a big personality. So I told Dee with as straight and serious of a face as possible, I said, we do the same thing as everybody else at the end of the day before we go to bed. We just make sure we express our feelings to everybody in our trailer by, just a quick interpretive dance. And Dee's mouth just dropped for a second. And I said it so seriously that she honestly thought, and we didn't bring it up. We didn't laugh about it. I didn't say, ha ha ha, I'm finished. I'm joking, whatever. And we just went on without the day. So we get to Virginia and we get to the first night and we were really, really tired because we pulled in late. So the next day of shooting, Dee just absolutely crushed it. And she kicked the tar out of all the boys at the shoot. And she was winning the overall after the first day. So we get back to the trailer. And Sheila and I were joking and said, well, Dee, I can't wait to see your interpretive dance. After the day that you had, I can't wait to see what your interpretive dance is going to look like. And she kind of dropped her jaw thinking, oh my goodness, I thought you guys were joking. And we sat down and pretended. And then bless her heart, Dee does an interpretive dance for us in the middle of our trailer, staying with us for the first time. It was, we laughed until we cried that evening. So now every time somebody stays in our trailer, Dee will always make sure to walk over and say, just so you know, they are serious about the interpretive dancing. So Turner's had to do it before, Riata's had to do it. We've had so many shooters stay with us, and now it's just kind of the joke of the family here that if you have a good day or a bad day, we're going to express it in interpretive dance.
Oh, Dee Chapman, she's always such a good sport.
She is.
Well, what advice would you give to a newer shooter? We have quite a few newer shooters that listen to the podcast. I know this because they're telling me, which is very exciting. So what advice would you give to them?
Okay, the biggest difference between, and I'm just going to kind of make a rough line in the sand here for this example. The biggest difference between a limited rider and an open rider. When we're looking at a course, if you would listen to them talk amongst themselves in the loading area, you can't convince a limited rider to go for a double or to take a long shot. They don't know that they can make that shot. If you walk to the other half of the event and go into the loading area for the open riders, for the level 6s and the level 5s and the really salty level 4s, you can't convince a single one of them that they cannot make that shot. So my advice to all new shooters in this sport, the people are so nice to talk to. Walk up and talk to all of the level 6s and ask them, why on earth did I not think to take a cross shot and a strong shot or whatever it may be? And just be brave and be confident. Fail as fast as you possibly can and as many times as possible. And you're going to find out you can do a whole lot more in this sport than you gave yourself credit for as a level 1.
I am going to be taking that advice very much to heart this Saturday when I shoot. So thank you for that. Now we're coming up on 2025. What are you looking forward to in 2025?
Oh, man, I already told you I'm a big supporter of the fraternity and derby. So now that Goosebomb was the runner-up in the fraternity, I've got a little bit of work to do here. I guess I'm probably the most excited. One of my favorite shoots will be starting in February when we travel down to Arizona. Hope to still be the announcer for CMSA then. We're going to do quite a bit of traveling again this year, and I'm really excited for Goosebomb to defend his runner-up title in the CMSA Derby in the fall in Cooper Steel Arena again. So I'll be able to run him as a 5-year-old now that I had him through the fraternity program, and I'm really excited to go back and try to compete with those guys again with a 5-year-old.
Very cool. And I am hoping to go to the shoot in Arizona, so I will hopefully see you there.
Outstanding.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. It really has been such a pleasure. You are as positive and as fun to talk to as everyone told me you would be.
Thank you so much, Chrissy. It was my honor to be on your show. I absolutely love what you're doing, and I've listened to every episode.
I so thoroughly enjoyed talking to Adam. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. If you haven't seen it already, please take the time to check out the video that Adam described of Charlie Little. It's linked in the show notes, and it's such an incredible run. I mentioned at the end of the last podcast that I am working on a challenge for newer shooters in January. I'm going to record a quick podcast this weekend to talk about it in more detail, so look out for that being posted probably sometime early next week. The challenge won't cost you a thing, and there will be a giveaway at the end, as well as building your skills through the month of January, and who doesn't want that? If there are balloon killers you would like to hear interviewed, please email me on balloonkillers@gmail.com. That's balloonkillers, all one word, @gmail.com.